November evening, wet concrete between the tower blocks, barking dogs on the 14th floor fill the brooding cloud-storm sky with fearsome mood. I'm waiting at the end. Waiting at the end of a narrow passage for a friend whose life in the blocks is regulated. I look up. A man on the 12th floor looks over the balcony rail. He's crying and shouts to me something I cannot hear. Then, with a scream, he drops the sleeping baby in his arms. I can't move. I'm frozen. Then the words he shouted come clear in my head. "Catch this child," is what he said. I run. At first in slow motion, then full speed, then fuller and faster and faster until I am almost beneath the child, my arms outstretched, hands strained towards the plunging bundle. It brushes my fingers as it passes by and thuds into the earth. Now I'm alone, standing on the moonlit moors in a howling gale of silence. At my bare feet a small, shallow grave. I cut my heart, blood drops drip there. I would swap places if I could, but the grave is barely a crib's length. I will return when I am smaller and find the grave empty and open for me. I turn and leave that place and walk, naked except for the blanket you gave me when the flood subsided. It will be daylight soon, and I will pass in adulthood through a narrow passage, in the shadow of the tower blocks, and cross wet concrete, and wait for a friend whose life in the blocks is regulated. I've taken chances, played the field, like a blind man dreams on the sand, hatched from the windy, salvaged on one leg, burning incessantly. I saw you, like a hare, stripped and jugged, no choices, no chances left in your own private gambling game. Always the winner, always the same, always the sinner in nature and name. I knew it was you. At the end of the banquet table, screaming, raging in silence, no one could see the ghost that you were. No one could feel in the air the presence of your remains. It gains you nothing. In the privacy booths, in the room that soothes, in the entrancing crypt, your script seen through to the end, you can't pretend. Walking the suitcase, the pull-along suitcase, locked and strapped and bulging, fit to burst. And that isn't the worst. I know what's in it. You can't lie. I know what's packed tight inside in a childish effort to hide. I know what's in it. But I won't tell. That would be hell. It was with an assertion born out of fear and betrayal that I persisted in stating the logistics of my case, but not before warning them that their open airing of such a controversial opinion might land them in hot water. The Blesbok were changing ground. An insurrection was imminent. My insurance had run out. I don't know what to say anymore. It's not my job to speak for anyone but myself. I went to the dead ferret's grave, and with the permission of the licensee erected a brass shelf in your memory. If I'd kept a reasonable diary, it might be worth something now. A candle-lit vigil. By the side of the sea, an abandoned lighthouse, my shadow and me, we'll walk these shores together, seafaring birds of a feather, the cracked garden, sole survivor, hit and run, a late arriver. Try and enjoy the rest of your life. You're a total cripple, but at least you're alive. In a vase, in a valuable sculpture. I filled in a monitoring form, signed it, posted it, and waited. The evacuees are on their knees. They know not where to go. With bags in hand they leave their land to where they do not know. It's war again, it's mud and rain, a tent town in the snow, a gypsy enclave in my soul, a deep hole filled and forgotten, rotten and never repeated. We cheated ourselves, but would never say so. At subtle lies we were expert. Read all about it. The old man in the faded tunic, the kernel of truth, the bastion of inattitude. Is that a hiatus? He asked. No, replied the blind man. It's the light in here that makes everything look taller. They held hands and talked, walked towards the burning cenotaph. In a metaphor of relations, the ritual of the hunt was always the same, his own voice haunting him in fiction, only the author holding the key to his enigma. Small and slightly built, hesitant in public, he got off to a difficult start. As human beings, we are totally opposite, but as players in this tragic game, we are almost identical. You couldn't tell us apart in the dark. They worked through the night, decorating the last of the epitaphs, making everything make sense so that when morning came, the seams of indecision would be invisible to the naked eye. He kept rabbits, you know, years ago, kept them in the loft. About a dozen or so, gave them all names and knitted them woolen suits for the winter. Even made a pair of spectacles for one of the older ones. The original plan was to breed them for food, to eat. The meat is apparently very good, but he could not bring himself to slaughter the poor little things. The irony is that at the height of the Depression, he ran out of tinned food and died of malnutrition. The poor little rabbits had to resort to eating his corpse to survive. It had a strange effect on them, eating human flesh. The next thing you know, left alone and to their own devices, the one with the glasses opened a book and taught itself to read. O ancient saints of the holy wood, hear our hearts if only they could. Bring forth themselves in the hours of need. Blood of the martyrs, blood of the seed, blood of the blood and blood of the creed. Here, in our moment of need, we call upon thee. We call upon thee. At that moment the phone went dead. Someone had cut the wires, hacked the lines, turned off the power and locked down the last of the open channels. We were alone at last. You unzipped my skin. I unzipped yours. We slipped gracefully out of our lives made flesh and danced away from the surplus skin and bone, and danced to atone for all those before us, and danced to satisfy our love, and danced until nothing remained above. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.